What's up, everybody? This is the Paranormal Rush Hour, and I am Ryan Rush, and I am back here with you guys in my studio tonight, this morning. I'm not even going to tell you what time it is. Anyway, no, I had some issues in the studio. Actually, my air conditioner went out completely, and it is summertime, and I do live in the South, as most of you know. And in the South during the summertime, you really, really need an air conditioner in a room because otherwise it's going to be like a sauna, and that sucks. So I had to replace that. Now it's nice and chilled out in here, so I'm back. I've also been dealing with other issues, and I'm okay. But I've been dealing with other issues and been busy with other things and stuff like that too lately. But I've really missed doing these, and I've missed all of you guys, and I really appreciate everybody that's reached out and checked on me and everything. I really do appreciate that. You guys don't know how much that really means to me, to know that you're actually that concerned. So I really do appreciate that, so thank you. And anyway, I've been really considering a lot of things about this topic, and it's taken me a while to gather things on it. However, I recently received an email about an encounter with one of these, and it really kind of, got me into the mode of doing an actual episode on just that. So I'm going to be talking about these cloaked, skull-faced beings, entities, whatever these things are. And I really don't have answers. I don't know that anyone does about what they are, where they're from, why they're here, why they do what they do. Who knows? I really don't, but I hope one day we'll figure some things out about it. Anyway, I just wanted to first let you guys know how I first came across this idea of these things actually existing. And that came about when I saw a picture several years ago. In this picture, it was taken in a national forest, really near where I live, pretty close, not too far from where I live. And in this picture, okay, there was this weird pulley looking type contraption. Someone had set up some sort of pulley system type thing out in the forest. And that is actually what the picture was taken of. The image was not taken for any other purpose than this weird thing that somebody came across in the woods. Like strung, it was like a rope like tied off to a big tree trunk, and the rope was strung into a branch, and it looked like there was actually a pulley or something like that on the branch. And then there was some other thing that was hanging, and I couldn't really tell exactly what that was. And anyway, that's actually completely irrelevant to what I'm talking about, because in the picture, this is what really got me. And this was the whole reason the person showed me the picture. What was seen in that picture was, and I saw this clearly, it was a figure, like a humanoid looking figure, peeking out from like around the tree where the rope was tied. And it was peeking out, and it had what looked to be a black cloak and a hood and a white face. And the face closely resembled a skull, like what I could see of the face resembled a skull. Now, I couldn't make out a lot of, defining characteristics and minute details and stuff like that, because the image was taken from a distance, and this thing, the figure showed up in the distance. I mean, I don't even know what distance it would have been, but it wasn't a close-up by any means. However, you could tell that something was there in the picture, and it didn't look natural whatsoever. You could not explain this away as like pareidolia or something, some sort of anomaly, photographic anomaly or whatever. And it was several years ago. So the resolution on cameras was not what it is now. I'm sure the picture would have been much more detailed now had it been taken in more recent times. But it was there. I saw it. Okay. Nobody knew what this was. Nobody I talked to knew what it was. I mean, it was just really strange. Okay. And this was around the time when I had first actually started getting some interaction with the Sasquatch, when I first began doing all that stuff. Now, this was during a time where I was kind of being awakened to the possibility that other things did exist, actually were real. Because, as I've said before, you don't really know for sure until you see something face to face, like with your own eyes. That's the only way you can actually be sure of what is there. So, anyway, this thing, I really hope I never see one, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm good, like just speculating about this. However, the speculation kind of starts getting into a belief with me in this topic, because there have been a lot of things I've heard over the years pertaining to these specific entities or creatures or whatever they are. I really don't know what they are. To be totally honest, I don't know. So, anyway, but this was during that time where I was kind of like, my mind was being a little more opened a little further beyond the things that, I thought before I learned that the Sasquatches were actually real. And this thing, I didn't know what to think about it. Okay. And I know I've told you guys this stuff in past videos and stuff, so forgive my redundancy. But anyway, this thing, like, I want to say I may have talked about it in a video on my Sasquatch channel back when I saw this. I'm not really sure how this next part plays in, how it even came about, but actually I don't know if I ever mentioned it, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, I received these weird emails like around the same time. It was probably a year and a half or so, maybe, at the very most, after I saw this picture, that I received these emails. Okay, these emails were from a guy, and I'm pretty sure he was from Canada, from like Ontario or somewhere around there, Vancouver or something. And this guy started emailing me, telling me and explaining to me what the Sasquatch actually were. Like he started telling me that they were actually servants to these things that he called the others. And he said that they were bad, like really bad beings or creatures or entities. And these things came to the surface with the assistance of the Sasquatch. Like the Squatches were basically like their servants or something along those lines. They were in cahoots with them somehow. And he told me this. He told me that he said the reason that they bend trees are to assist them to the surface. And he said these things have black cloaks that they wear with white skeleton looking faces. He described them like that. And so anyway, I mean, this was such a random thing too. And I started thinking, I was like, I saw that picture with that thing in it. And I was like, I wonder if that has something to do with what he's saying. So anyhow, he started telling me this stuff like the tree bends are to assist them to the surface, and they actually live underground, like subterranean. And I was like, that was a lot to hear, a lot to read. I mean, it was just totally against what I was thinking, and really still what I think. I don't know that I'll get something clear right now. I don't think all of the Sasquatch are like this. I don't think that they all would do this or assist these things. However, I don't know for sure, but I don't think so. I really don't. From my experience, I don't think so. But he did say that about the tree bends, and he said multitudes of other things in these emails, and I can't find the emails anywhere. I think they're gone. I'm pretty sure, because it was an old email address that they were sent to, and that email address I had stopped using, and once it became inactive, I didn't know that the emails weren't ever backed up and would go away after a certain amount of time, because I did go searching for them like several times. Anyhow, these things, he was talking about all of this, and he stated that about them living underground, about them coming to the surface with the assistance of the Sasquatch. He was also talking about the Sasquatch living in trees and stuff like that, which is, I've heard that from several different sources over the years too. Now, I don't know for sure about that. Anyway, I will say though that it really coincided with some other experience I heard of later on. And that was what Mark Barton from The Trail to Bigfoot went through and told about on my friend Carrie's show, the Bigfoot Odyssey show. He did that interview on there, talking about and detailing his encounter with these beings, these entities, whatever these things are. He got messed up from this, and I could tell, it made him quit doing everything altogether. I mean, anything related to cryptid research, he quit. So, or last I heard, he still had. Anyway, that's basically my introduction to this stuff. This guy, he was writing these emails to me, telling me all this stuff, and he was like, look, this is the truth. I know it's hard to grasp. I know it's hard to hear, but this is how things are. And he seemed pretty adamant that this was it. Like, he knew. I think he had said he had been studying this for a long time and finally found out what was going on. So that kind of flipped me out. I'll be honest, it did. Anyway, recently I get this email from one of you guys, one of my subscribers. And this email was it was someone who had recently found my channel, I think. And he found a video where I was talking about this already. And it was like some kind of synchronicity for him, because he had just heard about this encounter that his cousin had with a being that sounded a lot like this. So he wrote to me and told me about it, and I will read it to you guys here shortly. That kind of got me really going on this, and that's the reason I'm talking about this and dedicating a whole episode to it, because I've heard this from several sources now. And all these random people are not just going to make this up. That's the thing. I mean, the guy from Canada, I really doubt that he was just telling me that and took the time to write me an email about it and all that stuff just to, just for fun, just for his own self-gratification to mess with me. It just didn't seem right. So, I don't know. I still don't know. And I'm honestly good not knowing for sure, or through my own personal experience. I will take someone's word for this because I'm good not knowing. But I want to bring this up because if they are out there and if this is real, they don't seem too cool, to be honest. I mean, they don't seem too cool at all. It seems like something that we should all be wary of. So, anyway, but the tree bends, that plays in too with what I was told in this recent encounter. That's another thing that's weird. They live underground. They're supposedly evil. They don't like people, from what I understand. Anyway, I'll go ahead and pull up that email and read it to you guys, because this was something, it was pretty interesting. It definitely sparked my interest in this subject again. And I mean, I'm not sure what to say about these. I really am not. But I'm going to tell you guys what I have found just through what I've researched. And I'll let you guys make up your own mind, of course, like I typically do. But this stuff was just, it's strange. It's some really strange stuff. And I'm trying to find this email. Here it is. Okay. Now I'm not gonna say this guy's name. And it wasn't him that actually saw this. He's relaying this from what his cousin told him. Okay. But he was really surprised that he found somebody who was talking about it, because he had never heard anybody else say anything close to this. And then he found one of my episodes where I was talking about it. So that really inspired him to write in, and I'm very glad he did, because this is weird. All right. And at the time, okay, he wrote, so roughly 2 to 3 days ago, my little cousin wanted me to go walk with him into the woods next to my house. Me and him live close to each other, and I usually take him on walks just to talk and enjoy nature. The area itself in which he saw the skull person is mountainous with vast forest. There are a few houses near the road and more houses on top of the mountain. By now you probably realize that we live in a rural area. My town only has 1,000 people. On this day, he wanted to walk with me as usual. However, I refused because it was almost dark outside, approximately 8 p.m., and he accepted my decision of not going and instead took his stepbrother to go walk with him. I stayed home, and not long after, he sent me a text saying, "We saw a black and white thing in the woods." I was confused and texted him back saying, "What was it? And that's why you shouldn't walk outside when it's almost dark." He simply told me that he doesn't know. The next day it was sunny and warm outside, so I walked with him on this day to the same area that we always walk to. He didn't seem to be as scared since it was now daytime, and I was with him. I was curious about the thing he texted me about the previous day. I asked him some questions about the thing, and this is how he described everything. This is the dialogue he wrote. Okay. Me. So what do you mean by a black and white thing? The cousin. It was in the tree wherever me and his stepbrother arrived. Me. Did you notice any details about it? Him. Yes, it looked like it had a skull face and the rest of it was black. Me. What kind of skull was it? Him. It looked like a buffalo skull with a long chin. I believe he was referring to a cow or bull skull. Me. What was it doing? Was it moving in the tree? He said, no, it was just looking at me and my stepbrother. I told him to run because I saw something. We both ran away, and he said his stepbrother didn't have real good vision, and that's probably why he didn't see the thing. So then he says he was showing me the area in which he saw this thing. It was a clearing up on the mountain along the tree line. When we followed the rural road further, we noticed a tree that was pulled backwards. It didn't look natural, as a normal tree would fall forward, adding to the weirdness. This tree is on a slope of the hill. It isn't uprooted and not far from his sighting. He said they both had previously experienced strange things whenever they walked around the area of his sighting. He said, one day I heard a scream around there and we both ran away. Another time we would hear rocks being thrown around that same place, combined with the sound of tree bark being pulled off. This would stop any other person from visiting that same area, but we did it anyway. We would make up excuses for those sounds in order to not be as scared. And he said his cousin is young, and it is expected for young people like him to lie. But I could tell he was being sincere. And he said, I don't expect us to visit that place again after hearing my video about these skull people. That was weird. Thing went back. After hearing my video about these skull people. I've never heard about skull people before, but the convenience of finding your video shortly after his encounter is amazing. And he asked me if I had any questions or anything, and so I just asked him where it was that he lived and all that stuff, and he said it was in rural Kentucky. So anyway, that's really about it. And he told me I could share the experience and everything. He said his cousin, though, I also asked him if it was near, or if it was on or near any national forest or a national park or anything like that. And he said it was not. It was just in a rural area around the mountains. So I also asked him about if his cousin saw a cloak or anything. He said he never mentioned a cloak, but he said that its body and around its head was dark, so that may indicate some kind of dark clothing or covering or something. So anyway, and I really appreciate you sending that in. So that was pretty crazy. Okay, that itself, like, kind of drove it home that this stuff is going on in places. People are seeing these things, just like what I saw in that picture. I know I saw that in the picture, and I know that the person who showed it to me did not edit it in there or add it any. There's no way. And I think, had it been taken more recently, I may have been able to make out more detail, because this was years ago, and the resolution on the cameras and stuff like that was not anywhere close to what it is now. So I may have had a better idea of what it looked like then. But I do remember seeing, I mean, it was just weird. But the way that he described this, the way this guy's cousin said this, like it had an elongated face is what it sounded like. Some sort of like, he said it sounded, I mean, it sounds like an animal's type skull. I don't know. That's just weird. And for some reason, that's kind of ringing a bell. Like I've heard of something like that before. With like a specifically with an animal type skull. I don't know. But it does sound familiar to me. Anyway, I've heard a lot of stories over the years about weird things. For some reason, this is one of those things that's really creepy to me. The other thing that got me about what he said in that email was the tree bend. He said they found that tree that was like bent backwards. Now, I should have asked him to clarify that a little more, but I kind of got an idea of what he was talking about. Now, that is one of the things that the guy who wrote me those emails years ago telling me about that stuff said, was that they will bend trees to help them to the surface. One thing that I have never, ever, ever been able to figure out are tree bends. Okay, the reason they do them, the purpose they may serve, even looking at them, like the way I figured out for sure what the X's meant when the Sasquatch would build X's to mark off their boundaries and their territories. Okay, I could tell that because I live in a place where they are. And when you do that, when you have access to see this stuff as frequently as I do, you can start seeing the patterns and the placements and the actual spots where they make them they'll help you to decipher what they mean. I mean, when you see them making them in certain places over and over and over, and I mean various places, but they're in the same type of place. Like for instance, the X will always be built near a trail usually, or right near a wood line, right where something clears and the woods begin. That's the most common place that I would find them. And, or around some sort of shelter or something like that, where you could tell they were utilizing something for a shelter, for cover, or whatever. But that's where I would typically find those X's. And that's why I could decipher the meaning of those. Now, another thing is like when I would find a leaned stick, like a stick leaned into the fork of a tree, or where a branch meets the tree or something, that was typically always by a clearly worn path or a trail that was already made or something like that. And I believed that to be a directional marker, something that showed a pathway. And I still think that's what those mean. This thing, though, the tree bends, I've never been able to figure those out. I've heard so many theories. I've heard so many people speculate about those. You know, they're there to trip up game when they're running game, trying to hunt or something. Or, I mean, just stuff like that. I've heard so many things. Or they point in the direction of food, water, shelter, whatever. I've heard tons of theories on why they bend trees. But that is just kind of weird to me, how he mentioned finding that in the area where his cousin saw this. And then there's that guy that told me that about them living underground and using tree bends somehow to assist them to the surface. That is weird to me. And there are a lot of similarities because I have found other stories on the internet about these things or things similar. People saying everything that I had read that I'm going to mention was an encounter or a sighting or something of a cloaked figure with a white face. So, I don't know, but Mark, okay, Mark in Florida, the encounter he had is just crazy. I'm not calling him crazy. I'm just saying what he said, what he said happened is just wild. I mean, it's freaky, straight up freaky. And I'll recap it a little bit for those of you who haven't heard him tell it. And it is really interesting. And I'll try to link the interview in the description for you. But what Mark said happened, see, he had rented out a cabin in the swamp somewhere around in Florida where they are. It's around central Florida. And he had rented out like a cabin or something to get away for a week or so. I think something like that. He was by himself, just having a little vacation. And he said that he would build a fire at night. And when he built the fire, he started, I think it was a couple days after he'd been there, something like that. He saw red, like eye shine, what looked like red eyes in the woods. Okay, he saw these, and he said that he would get this, I think he said he would just get this bad feeling when he saw them and stuff. And he had been going out and, studying the squatches for a while. I mean, up till this point, he had been going out there for a long time, about as long as I had, because I knew Chris and Mark from that channel. And we had started, I think, around the same time. And, we used to talk about things and stuff like that we'd find and collaborate on our ideas. But anyway, Mark, he ended up having a bad encounter. He said that one night, I think it was a night after he had started seeing this eye shine, a couple nights after, something like that, he saw the red eyes again. And at that point, he was sitting by the fire and he felt something, hands on his shoulders, like holding him down in a chair. And they were big hands, and I think he was saying it was a squatch. I want to say he said that there was the smell and everything too. And that's kind of weird also. But he said that these entities ended up coming to him when he was being held down in that chair. And they started telling him things. And like telling him they were going to kill him and stuff like that. I mean, just, it was freaky. Straight up freaky. And he said they did this all with mind speak, with like a form of telepathy. And he said the reason that they told him all these things about themselves and about what they were doing, and he said that the more information they can give their prey, the greater the kill. And it's all like a game to them or something. They have no regard for life, basically. So anyway, these things were messing with him bad. And he said that they told him, I want to say he said they lived underground, or they came from below, and the squatches were like serving them, basically. And he said that they like hunted people, I think. They like would choose people, and the Sasquatches would help them lure the people into believing things and stuff, and they would end up getting them somehow that way. So, I mean, Mark tells it a lot clearer, but I'm just kind of going over the gist of what he said happened. Anyway, he said that once they had told him all this stuff, in his description, he said they called them the masters. His description of them was black hoods, like black cloaks, and white faces, skull-looking faces. And that flipped me out. When I heard that, I was like, whoa. It pointed me right to the emails. And that was another thing, because the things Mark said coincided with what that guy told me in those emails years ago. And I've talked about this before, I know. But it's just really, really weird, okay? This stuff really has gotten to me because I've just heard so much about it now. But anyway, Mark said that what happened to him, that the whole way that he was able to get away, was he started praying. And I think what happened was something in the fire, like there was this big, like almost like an explosion or something in the fire. And that diverted their attention long enough for him to get up and run to the cabin. Now, when he ran to the cabin, they pursued him, I believe. But he got in, and he said it was like a barrier was there that would not let them in where he was. So they were not able to follow him. And I want to say he said they stayed out there and kept saying things in his mind. Kept on and just messing with him. And it was just bad. There's no other way to put it. And some things happened to him, like health-wise, after that was really weird too. Chris had some things. His partner that did the channel with him had some things happen also, because I spoke to Chris prior to Mark going on the show and stuff. I had spoken to Chris about it, and because Chris gave a type of warning to everybody who kind of did this stuff that I do with the squatch investigations and stuff like that. Chris kind of warned everybody. He still didn't know what to really think of it, but Mark felt like he had some sort of protection, some sort of divine protection, and I believe he did. I do. So anyway, it was just a really bad thing, is what it sounded like to me. I mean, I could tell he was different. He didn't seem like the same person when he gave that interview with Carrie on his show. He didn't seem like the same person that I had, known throughout the years and seen in other ways as far as like their channel went. I mean, it was just weird. It was very weird. So anyway, and Chris had some strange things happen to him too, like at his house. And it was a weird thing, for sure. But if anyone's interested, I'll find that episode and link it in the description. I know it's in the description on a few past episodes on my channel, but I'll make sure I get it and link it to you guys again. Anyway, the stuff that Mark said, though, coincided a lot with what that guy told me in those emails. And I was like, what are the odds of that? This was years apart too. At least 5 years, maybe 6 years apart, that I'd gotten that email and that Mark had this happen. So, you guys know, I've said it before, I'm not big on coincidences. I think things actually happen for a reason most of the time, and things aren't just coincidence, meaningless coincidence. I think that there's something behind everything. I really do. And that's just my personal opinion. I'm not going to tell anybody it's right or wrong. It's just how I feel. But this is one of those things that I really feel is not just a coincidence. It just seems too uncanny that I would hear this stuff from this many sources without there being some sort of, authenticity to it. So I don't know, though. I mean, that's the thing. I really don't know for sure. However, it's just, how would the same things be said from all these separate sources, But there's got to be some merit in there somewhere. It's got to be worth something. And it's just too weird and seems too dangerous to just completely dismiss. Now, there were things I'd read also on the internet, encounters people had had with hooded entities, with skull faces or white faces. One of them was a guy who, he said that he was leaving his house one day or something. He had a few incidents with these things, but the one that really stuck out to me that he talked about was he was leaving his house and he's like going to work one day or something. And he said he was like about to walk out the door, and he felt like a presence, like something else in the room with him. And that's another thing everybody says is like they can feel them before they see them. It's weird. So anyway, he said this guy said he saw something come up out of the ground, and it was one of these things with a black cloak, black hood, and white face, and the eyes were like non-existent, like not there. And he said he started smelling like a wet dog smell, like a bad smell, and hearing a growl. And he said I can't remember what exactly happened. I want to say maybe a lot of these people start praying when this happens. And I want to say maybe that's what he did or something. I'm getting some of them confused, but bear with me. Anyway, he said that it went back into the floor and the smell was instantly gone. So, I don't know. That was weird. I was like, it's coming from the ground. It's coming up from the ground. And this guy saw this thing come up from the floor or the ground or wherever. It was kind of hard to tell what he was talking about, because he said he was walking out of the door and this thing was coming up out of the ground, but he was in the house, I think. I don't know. It's hard to say. But nonetheless, it was weird reading that. And there were a few other things that had happened that were kind of relevant to that too. Now, another one, and I actually had this one pulled up for you guys too. I'm going to see if I can get back to it real quick. Yeah, I think this is it. I think, no, that one's not it. Anyway, this other one, if I can't find it, I can remember it well enough. Yeah, this is it right here. I'll just go ahead and read this one to you guys, okay? Now, I found this on a website when I was just looking around for other stories about similar things people had seen. This one is, when I was younger, before I got married, I was on the phone at my parents' house with my future wife. My parents have a tremendous yard, and behind the yard there are woods. It was nighttime, extremely dark out, and while I was on the phone looking out into the yard, through the glass of a sliding door, I noticed what appeared to be someone standing behind the fence that separated the woods from my parents' yard. It was too far to tell for sure, but it looked as if someone was wearing an all-white mask to cover all the features of their face. My parents were upstairs, my brother was in the shower, but I didn't say anything to anyone other than my fiancée on the phone. I told her it looked like someone wearing a white mask was looking into my yard. When I checked a second time, it was gone. Maybe 20 minutes or so had passed, and I remained on the phone when I heard my brother yell out a swear word pretty loud and come bolting out of the bathroom, covered only by a towel. When my parents asked what was wrong, he said he just saw a white face looking into through the skylight when he got out of the shower. He said this made me nervous. I told my fiancée, and she suggested I tell my parents and brother, but I didn't want to suffer the same ridicule and have it turned into a joking matter as it was being done to him. My dad did go outside, as did my brother and I, and we looked around but never made any mention of what I saw earlier. Well, time went on, and eventually I became tired and went to sleep around my usual bedtime of 1 a.m. or so. I'm not sure how long I was asleep and how much time has passed, but I was awoken to the creepy feeling that someone was standing over me watching me sleep. Not just watching, but the feeling of someone staring deeply at me. I always sleep with a pillow over my head, so of course I couldn't see anything, and I chose to ignore the feeling and try to fall back asleep. Well, the feeling got so strong I removed the pillow and sat up to experience the most frightening thing I've ever experienced in my life. At the back of my bed, leaning over me, was a tall figure wearing all black, with a black hood and an all-white face. The face was completely white, oddly enough, like No Face from the Dick Tracy movie. However, no visible features were there. Shocked with fear, I jolted back down, pulling the pillow over my head, and began to pray. When I started praying, the feeling of being stared at immediately left, and when I looked back, nothing was there. I couldn't sleep for a while, but eventually passed out. When I tried to mention it in the morning about everything that had happened, I was laughed at. The only one that believed me was my soon-to-be wife. I never spoke openly about this and never saw that figure again, but have always wondered what it might be, and if anyone else has seen anything similar. I've seen countless stories of seeing hooded figures in which you couldn't see the face, but nothing like mine. So he was writing this to see if anyone had seen it. He said, since then I have only had one other experience, but I'm not sure I would like to speak about it just yet. I saw something else, but it wasn't the white face thing from before. So I don't know what that was. I didn't ever find that. Anyway, that one sounded really, really odd to me because it began seeing it in the woods. That's another thing. A lot of these seem to begin by the woods are involved somehow. Somehow it's it's weird because a lot of these stories, the woods are first involved. That's what I was going to say. They appear in the woods first, like near the woods, because there is another one that, and I'm trying to see if it's over here on this one, because I want to say it was. Anyway, yeah, it's this one right here. I'll just read this one to you guys. Okay. This guy said this was a reply to that guy's story. I can't decide if I am relieved or concerned over the fact that other people have seen or experienced what I have come to believe was my imagination. Let me start by saying that I am someone who historically has not put a lot of stock in tales of the supernatural. My story began in 1997. I was in Annapolis, Virginia on business. I had been traveling every night for months. It was about 12:30 a.m. and I was driving to my hotel. The radio was on and I felt just fine. Suddenly, I was overcome with the feeling that someone was staring at me. The hairs on my neck stood straight up. A wave of goosebumps came over me so fast that it made me shake. The feeling was crazy intense and came over me really fast. I looked in the rearview mirror and thought that I saw a dark silhouette of a woman. This particular stretch of highway I was traveling through this particular stretch of highway was traveling through the woods, and there was no one else on the road. I turned around and looked into the back seat, and there was no one there. I drove for maybe another half mile. When I looked back again, I saw the same figure. This time I just got angry, so I locked up the brakes and slid to a halt. I came to a stop half off the road and half in the grass on the right-hand side of the road. I jumped out of the car and swung open the back door, and there was no one there. I was covered in goosebumps again, and the hairs on my neck stood up. I looked all around me and initially saw nothing. Then off in the distance, standing under a streetlight, I saw what appeared to be a woman wearing a dark robe with a hood. The face was white and appeared to be a mask, maybe a porcelain mask. It looked at me and scared me pretty bad. I closed the back door, got to the front door, looked back, and it was gone. I have to tell you, I was pretty freaked out. I drove at about 100 miles per hour the rest of the way to the hotel, maybe 10 miles away. I took my luggage out of the trunk and got inside as soon as possible. I kept having waves of paranoia coming over me. With them, I would get goosebumps all over. I got to my room on the 8th floor. I turned on the TV and went to close the curtains. And when I did, I looked down to the parking lot. My rental car was parked at the end of the lot near the woods. The figure walked out of the woods and stood next to my car. It abruptly looked up and pointed at me. The white face had no eyes. There were just black holes where the eyes should have been. The TV turned off, and I heard a noise in the hallway. I looked towards the TV for a second, and then back towards the car, and the figure was gone. I have never been so frantic and scared in all of my life. I moved the dresser, the chair, the desk, the mattress, and the box spring up against the door. I sat in the corner of the room and shook. I was awake all night. When the sun came up, all of the fear just melted away. I looked outside and saw nothing out of the ordinary. I showered and got dressed and went to work. All was well. In time, I wrote the whole experience off to fatigue. I thought I had spent too much time on the road. I thought that I had been hallucinating. I did start praying my rosary again. I thought that it was all over. Years later, I saw that it was only the beginning. I am haunted to this day and have told no one about this until now. And I ended up reading some more of this encounter, this person's encounters. And it seems that this, whatever this thing is, has been pretty active in his life since then. Like it's crazy. It's really crazy. I don't know. There were so many things he said about it. But that was another one. I mean, this is just weird. all these encounters, all these things that I've read about this specific type of entity, and I don't know what to make of it. I mean, and I wonder, is there some sort of connection between this and the missing 411 stuff? I mean, there's no way to know, but it does make me wonder, because I always wonder about something having a correlation to that, because it's such a strange phenomenon that, nobody really knows what's going on with that. And, well, maybe somebody does, but they're not going to tell us. Anyway, that's something else, though, that, I saw that one. I read a few of these, but they're always involving the woods, typically. There's something about these encounters, they all say something about the woods. And it seems like they come out of the woods, these things do. I don't know. Now, there's something else that's interesting. They all have some sort of similarities between them, the encounters. Like, there was another one, this guy, actually, I think it was the same guy. He said that he started smelling these rancid smells, like in his house and stuff, when this thing would appear. And he said that it would go away, like as soon as, it disappeared. That was one of the things. A few people said, it looked like, that guy told me about them being in the ground. Mark said that they lived underground, or came from the ground, came from below. And then that one guy saw it come from underneath, or from the ground. That was another thing I noticed. Another similar, like, pattern type thing. The feeling of dread. They just get this dreadful feeling when this thing is around. Like, if every person that had one of these encounters, almost like they could feel it before they knew it was, before they saw it, like actually saw what it was. It's always a white face. Some of these people who have encounters with hooded entities or whatever, they don't ever see the face. They never see actually, sometimes they don't even have a face to see. It's just a shadow or something, But this specific thing always has a white face. There's always a white face with it. And there's not a whole lot of detail given, usually. I don't know if it's just they can't see it or what. But, another thing was the names. That's what really got me a lot with the email I got from the guy from Canada and the story Mark told. The guy from Canada called them the others. And I want to say he had another, like, the something name, but I can't remember. But I know he called them that. And Mark called them the masters. So that's what they identified themselves as, I guess. That's another thing. There's always mind speak and telepathy. That's one thing that I read about an encounter with the guy who said that that's what it was. He had a rancid smell, and he said in his mind, this thing told him something like, oh, I wish I could remember what it was. I don't even think I saved that one. But it was some kind of message that this thing told him in his mind. And he said it came through like telepathically. That was another one of these encounters I read. I didn't read this one to you guys, but if I can find it, I'll try to share it with you on another video or something. Anyway, and it also seems that everybody who's had these types of encounters has it seems like these things have been affected by prayer. Like they'll start praying and it will actually be effective. It'll make a difference, and it seems like it will deter them or get them gone completely somehow. I don't know. I mean, that's just things that I picked up reading all these and from what I've heard in the past. It's some really weird stuff. I mean, really weird. That's kind of bothering me that I can't actually remember what that one guy said that thing said to him. But that was one of these, and once you've read as many of them as I have, they just kind of run together. Anyway, like another person, describes that I'm just looking right here. Got a weird feeling that someone was watching her, and she was sleeping. Got this, so she got upset, turned around, and when she saw this figure over her bed, she described it as all in black, floating in the air, just a little over the ground, all white face. She thinks it maybe was a white mask, and it had deep eye sockets. Described it as no eyes. Then when she faced it and saw it, she screamed, and it floated fast away. See, that's another thing. I had one of my longtime subscribers tell me about having an encounter with some hooded entities or something. And this person has been someone I've known for years. And I don't doubt their experiences at all. I really don't. And they said that they were uncontrollably screaming when they saw these things. A few of these other people said that. Even the guy that was that I just read the story about in Virginia, who went to the hotel room and saw it there in the parking lot and all that. He said that in one of his other encounters with this thing, he said that he was uncontrollably screaming one night when it appeared and could not stop until it was gone. And that's another thing that a few other people have reported. The screaming, like they will start screaming. It's really weird. So I don't know if this is the same thing. I mean, I really don't. It could be, maybe not, but I can't say it isn't. I don't know. Another thing that one of the things that I looked at that someone had mentioned somewhere was the specter of Newby Church. Okay. This is a photograph that was taken, and I'll add the picture on the end I'll try to add the picture on the end of this episode for you guys. If not, if I can't, then you guys can find it. All you have to do is Google this, and it's well documented. It's a picture of an entity, and it was taken in 1963 by Reverend Kenneth F. Lord, of all names. And it was a figure found in a picture that was taken by him, of course. And it was taken in the Church of Christ, the Consoler in North Yorkshire in the UK, which is part of Newby Hall. The churches are found in Newby Hall. And this was a picture, and it had this entity that showed up in the picture, and it was like hooded with a white face, and it looked like, it almost looked like it had some sort of like cloth, like a shroud or something over its face. And I don't know. I don't know the validity of that picture. I really don't. Nobody really does. They say it a lot of experts have looked at it and said it does not look like double exposure or anything like that, which is the only way they could have faked a picture back then. Some people, have claimed, yeah, it is double exposure, but who knows? And the only other thing that makes it kind of questionable is the feet in this thing are not visible at all, and it appears to be like pretty tall. I think people have estimated it around like 8 or 9 feet. I don't know. I don't know about it. All I know is it looks similar to what these people describe. So I'll add that for you guys and let you take a look at it. But anyway, the stuff that I've been reading, I mean, there's so much of it. And I don't know that it's the same things. I really don't. I don't know if there's a bunch of different type of hooded figures or if it's one particular one. I don't know. I mean, one particular type. I really don't know what the deal is with that. But it seems like they're out there. And it really, kind of freaks me out. I'm not going to lie. If what happened to Mark is the truth, then it's scary. Like, seriously. And I think we would probably do good to know what this is, what these things are, and how to avoid them or get rid of them or whatever. That's what I would like to do. Something like this. I really wish I could find that one I was reading with the guy, because I would like to see what it is they said. Oh yeah, I remember now. It said something like, because they were talking about hoodoo being involved for some reason. And I want to say it was on this page here. But they were saying they had looked into hoodoo, which is, I want to say, a little different than voodoo. I'm not real sure at the moment. I have looked into it before, but I'm sure you guys know a little bit more about that than I do. However, he said something like this thing spoke to him in his mind and said like it was Apollo or something, and this is where I stay or something like that. I don't know. It was some weird stuff. But he said there was that smell, and this thing did the telepathy, the mind speak stuff. I don't know, guys. I really don't know. What I do know is I think I've talked about it long enough. I think I've gotten my point across that it's freaky, and it's about all I can say. So, anyway, as always, let me know what you guys think about it. Tell me if you've had any experiences with this kind of stuff. I'd love to know if anyone else has had any experiences with this or seen anything like it. There's just been too much that I've found to dismiss it. And that's why I really wanted to address it in the entirety of an episode. So I'm really glad, though, to be back in the studio doing these. And I'm going to do more very, very soon. I'm going to try to get back on my schedule because I really do love doing these. And I'm so glad that you guys watch them or listen to them or whatever you do. So anyway, leave me comments and let me know. Let's discuss this stuff. I'll also try to make sure I'll try to get that picture on the end of the episode, and I'll try to make sure I remember to link Mark's interview. If I don't, somebody remind me. Some of you guys are good at that. So anyhow, I guess I'm going to leave it there, guys. So I really appreciate everybody watching, and I will be back with you guys soon. And I say that every time, and I always have the best of intentions on doing so. But this time I'm for real. I'm going to. I've got a lot to share. But this one seemed the most pertinent since I did get that email. And again, you know who you are who sent it, and I really appreciate it. I try to keep everybody anonymous. You know that. And all of you guys know that. So he did give me permission to use his first name, but I'm still going to keep him anonymous because there's just no reason. Anyway, I really appreciate it, everybody. And I'll be back soon, I promise. So until then, stay safe, take care, take it easy, and I'll see you guys soon.